Frontline is a presentation of the Documentary Consortium.
Last week, a group of public health researchers announced the results of a national study calling violence in America a public health emergency.
Firearm homicide continues to be the second leading cause of death among teenagers.
Among their findings, during the late 1980s, shooting deaths among African American teenage males increased more than 200%.
And every place that I have a talk with parents, they are absolutely petrified about the fact that guns are found every day in their children's schools, each one of which could be the cause of their child's sudden death.
Tonight on Frontline, kids and guns, the epidemic of urban violence in America.
These kids have got to stop this killing.
Frontline producer June Cross investigates one murder and how today's teenagers survive in the inner city.
We've got to decide if we want to do something about violence, because what we're doing now is not solving the problem.
Tonight on Frontline, a kid kills.
With funding provided by the financial support of viewers like you and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. This is Frontline.
This all happened in Boston, Massachusetts. It could have happened anywhere in the United States. Anywhere groups of young black men walk with a swagger that makes pedestrians want to cross the street. I used to look at those young men and quickly look away. Now, I search their faces and wonder what stories they might tell. This story is about some of those young men, about a gun that's never been found, and the people whose lives it changed. Six shots fired, a 911 call, 2 male victims in cardiac arrest.
We could tell just on our arrival here that we were dealing with 2 bystanders or innocent victims. One of the children was a fairly small child. I'm talking somebody less than 4.5 feet tall.
The shootings occurred about 8:15 last night, as 11-year-old Charles Copney and Corey Grant, 15, played outside Copney's house on Highland Avenue. Neighbors say a group of teenage boys approached. Shots were fired, and everyone scattered. Charles Copney, who was supposed to go inside momentarily, instead became the youngest fatal shooting victim in Boston's history.
I'm tired of covering stories like this one. 2 kids dead. Police search for suspects. More later. Last year, 3,300 kids under 19 were shot dead in this country. 113 of them lived in Boston, Massachusetts. Corey Grant, 15, victim number 44. Charles Copney, 11, victim number 45. The events of that rainy spring night would make headlines for months. 3 suspects would face a judge for their role in the shootings. 16-year-old Willie Dunn, 15-year-old Teron Harris, and the triggerman, 15-year-old Damian Bino. Bino, Dunn, and Harris were all freshmen in high school. They considered themselves junior members of a local gang known as the Trailblazers. They lived within 6 blocks of each other, in the neighborhood of a housing project known as Orchard Park. As you drive around Orchard Park in the wintertime, the place looks deserted. Boarded apartments. Lots littered with trash. A majestic school building, abandoned. Some months after the shooting, I came to Orchard Park to find out why young black men are killing each other. To find out what had turned Damian Bino into a kid with a gun. In the beginning, almost no one would talk.
I don't want to even talk to no reporter. It's all a bunch of bull.
Jeffrey Bino is Damian's cousin.
It's hard. Because I know when it first happened, we was getting a lot of abuse. And I mean, the media just ate it up. They would come to my house.
He told me that Orchard Park felt exploited by press coverage about the shooting.
I mean, they just hogged all of us down, you know. And nobody wanted to do nothing, do the positive stuff that Damian all the kids been through. They just want to do the negative stuff, or why Damian did this, or why Damian did that.
See, when I was growing up, we were Orchard Park helping.
What Jeff wanted to talk about was Orchard Park's youth outreach program. A program designed to give teenagers some positive things to do and some young people to look up to. The peer leaders are the cream of the crop, paid under a city program to work after school.
Most of these kids are grown. Like Tamika Head, she's in the 9th grade. That's one of our basketball superstars. And she's really going to be somebody. This is the tutoring class. Dana Jones in the tutoring class. Where's her role model? Red. Oh, this is her role model, because Sabrina helps her a lot, too. Sabrina's like one of my first older girls that go to college. She went to Northeastern.
Damian Bino had been a peer leader in the months before the shooting.
Damian is one of them kids that we call wannabes. He knew the program was up here. He knew what he had to do to stay in the program. Damian was a peer leader. Damian was a good peer leader until he started being a wannabe.
Some of the peer leaders were shy of cameras at first.
What's your name?
As part of my research for the story, I taught them to use camcorders so they could present Orchard Park through their own eyes.
So you can look at these guys over here, or these guys over there.
Put it up on your shoulder. Put it up on your shoulder like that. Yeah. Now.
They made a video advocating a new gym. Their neighborhood gym has been closed for 7 years.
It's closed down. How long has it been closed?
I don't know. It's been closed for a while, though.
A while, huh? So how does it feel not to have a gym in your development?
It feels boring.
You look at Orchard Park as a human body. This gym is the heart. And now this gym is closed, so the body's dead, and that's where all the violence and the frustration of the teens is coming from.
When youth worker Kevin Gaskins was growing up in Orchard Park, the gym had everything for kids who had little.
We could go over to the gym, we could play sports, we could play pool, we could go swim, we could go on trips, and we could eat dinner there. And we'd go home. It didn't matter whether there was dinner on the table because we had already ate. You know, you do your homework, go to bed, and go to school the next day. Whereas now, if you don't eat at the gym and you don't eat at home, then you got to find a way to get a meal.
And what do you end up doing?
You end up selling crack, because that's available. Get your money, go to the sub shop, get your sub or whatever for the night. You either go home or go out there and make extra money for tomorrow.
Yeah, that's my new car.
Kevin's day is often spent working as a substitute parent.
You know why you on TV?
Why?
Because I found you a mini-mart when you should be in school. So tell me about it.
Tell you about what?
Why you ain't in school?
Because I cussed my teacher out, that's why. She
Why?
got on my nerves, man.
She got on your nerves?
Yeah. Talking about, just because I came in late at 9:30.
This day, he'll decide to keep a close eye on Brian by giving him a job as a peer leader.
That's why I cussed her out.
Kiki story.
As I began looking at the peer leaders' footage, it occurred to me much of it was shot within boundaries. Inside their teen center, within the lines of a basketball court or a football field, the places where they feel safe.
OP! 1, 2, 3, OP!
Among the peer leaders were some I knew could make it out of Orchard Park. There was Kiki, who wants to be a biologist,
Any other boys in the world.
and Randy, who wants to play for the NBA, but will settle for being a mechanic. Jamisa, a talented writer.
Let's zoom up on that.
Terrell, the jokester.
Looking at me.
Danina, who told me she wants to be a producer for Frontline. And Gary, Damian Bino's brother. He wants to do anything that will make him $300,000 a year.
I wanted to bring up one other subject. It's probably a little bit sensitive.
None of them was comfortable talking about the shooting.
Last year.
How would you deal with your friend that killed somebody or, stabbed somebody, anything to somebody? We could do this your friend, you're gonna be like, why you do it? But you ain't gonna say,
the person was wrong for doing what they did, but still, you still want to be there, they're your friend.
Mm-hmm. And you also feel sorry for the person that it happened to
and their family, but
what could you do?
I felt mad that it happened to, that it had to been the dudes who did it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was time for them to do what they doing now. So I'm just glad it didn't happen to me.
You think it could happen to you?
Do I think it could happen to me?
You said you're glad it didn't happen to me, as if you could see yourself having gotten caught up in a situation like that. Really? How could it be what's the difference?
We don't want to talk about this, Jim.
You know what I'm saying?
Why not?
It's going every time somebody interviews us, they always want to bring up something that happened here or with somebody we knew.
It's easy for me to come into Orchard Park and start asking nosy questions. I don't have to live here. I can go home to suburban Boston. I don't have to live with the consequences of saying that I know a murderer, that I feel sympathy for his family. I don't ride the school bus every day with friends of the kids who were killed. The reality is, there's no witness protection program for those who put their neighbor's business on the news.
Well, I saw Kiki on TV last night.
In Orchard Park, reminders that bullets have no names are everywhere. Just before I arrived, 2 young men had been killed within 3 weeks of each other.
These are most of the members of the Blazers. Right. All right. The ones that are circled, my man Peanut, Ed, and Terrain. The ones that are circled are the one that's gone. The one that ain't here with us no more. So.
Peanut. Every community like this has someone like him. A kid who gets along with everybody, but then gets caught in the crossfire. This Peanut had 3 brothers.
Yeah.
Shakim witnessed his murder after a high school football game.
I can't really know how to handle my brother's death, you know what I'm saying? I'd be ready to just go start, you know what I'm saying? I'd just be ready to do some ill shit. But
That's out of your mind.
I try to redeem myself, you know what I'm saying? By just chilling, man, with my boys and shit. Sometimes I drink. I give me a 40 ounce and I drink all of it so that I just be too high to do anything, you know what I'm saying? I'll be just nice and lit. And I can't do nothing because I be too high. Check it out. You walk around with Shaw Kim in a red and black outfit. I'm arming up with head matches. You wanna fuck around cause Bonnie killed my brother, so I'm killing Jack.
You might look at Shakim and see a hardened gangster. I saw an 11th grader trying to deal with death and violence at an early age.
With the 9mm Glock pistol, and it would get like a whistle, screaming, blowing, yeah. Watch you hoes start hoeing. Just everyone lives day by day, you know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody promised tomorrow, you know what I'm saying? And I got a mind that don't really care about anything. I don't give a fuck about today or tomorrow. You know what I'm saying?
There are no counseling programs for those like Shakim and his brothers. No resources of any kind for youths over 17. Orchard Park is isolated in a way that's hard to imagine. There are few jobs nearby. No supermarkets. No newspaper delivery. And there are only 16 peer leader jobs for 200 teenagers.
These days, black men can't get no job.
Have you tried, aside from in here?
No, because I ain't going to get it, so why you going to try?
I know.
You're going to see a little white boy get it.
I know. They tell you, don't call us, we'll call you.
I never call.
You go check out the job, you see a white kid sitting at the desk like, I got your job.
Or a more educated person. Or older.
No.
Orchard Park is like a small town. The kind of place where those sharing hardship help each other out and keep each other's secrets. Tenants pay 30% of their monthly income for rent. Most scrape by on $6,000 to $8,000 a year. Those that work mostly keep to themselves and mind their own business. Others get by any way they can. For Jeff Bino, Orchard Park is more than just home. It's like the family compound.
My whole family, my aunts and all of them, we all grew up in Orchard Park.
Right.
And we used to take pride because we used to just live over, we used to have the whole Albany side, and they used to call that the Bino side. But we just used to take care of this our side. You know, we have Sundays, we used to go out there and help my grandfather clean up the grounds, pick up the trash, and we just took pride in that. You know, just take pride in that. I love where I live from. I love that I grew up in Orchard Park. Can't nobody put this place down. Not to me, because I love this place.
Jeff's mother, Edna, Damien's aunt, grew up here.
My father was a veteran when we came into the housing project in 1940.
And been there ever since.
Been there ever since.
If Orchard Park is like a small town, Edna Bino, president of the Tenants Association, is its mayor. For years, she's battled the federal, state, and city bureaucracies for renovation money. Construction's finally due to start in October.
We'll have each section have their own heating system, like underneath the basement, so they won't have that problem that when this goes out, the other part of the project won't go out.
When I first came here, people told me nothing happens without Edna Bino's say-so.
We're trying to rush it along, because I know you all are tired of living like we're living, all right? And we need to see something positive out here.
That kind of take-charge attitude is typical of the Bino family. They're a family of West Indian immigrants, raised in a community of brownstones not 2 blocks from the Orchard Park projects. As they've made it in America, they've moved away. One Bino served on the board that administers all the projects in Boston. Another is a distinguished lawyer who ran for the state Senate. And one Bino is the only African American who owns an NBA team. Peter Bino's a partner in the Denver Nuggets.
I don't think we've ever looked at our family or, segmented our family between rich and poor. It's just been a family. And I think, as I said, each unit on its own has, found or at least tried to find its own way.
Each unit on its own, trying to find its own way. As the Binos got more successful, their family became more insular, like families everywhere. And some units had a harder time than others. Peter Bino had 13 cousins who grew up in Orchard Park. Among them were Edna and Rhonda Bino, Damien and Gary's mother.
I learned to deal with life by myself. I made my bed, now I got to make it. Like my mother said, you decide to have kids, you got to take care of them.
All your sisters got kids. It seems like you all would kind of...
Stick together?
Yeah.
Some do, some don't. That's life.
Rhonda Bino is a displaced piece of the Bino family, the 10th of 13 children. She stays involved in city programs, but is still searching for a steady job. She and Damien's father, Gary Robinson, separated when Damien was 5.
Damien used to see him, and he used to ride right past him.
So you never acknowledged him at all? No way?
When Damien was a baby. But once Damien started walking and talking.
I go over there and want to see him. She's the first thing that comes out of her mouth is, do you have any money? Hey, I'm paying you support. Now you want me to give you money too? Come on. You're working. Sometimes you go over to my mother's house without the kids. And you want money. And you're working and you still want more money. What are you doing that you need all of this money?
How much money was he giving you?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay.
Nothing.
I understand because he says he was giving you money and he didn't know where it was going.
He never gave me a dime. Never. I raised these, my kids would tell you, I raised them from, everybody can tell you around there, I raised them from when they were babies by myself.
Can we talk about your dad? You didn't know your dad real well, right?
I know him, but I didn't like him because he left me. I hated him because they'll call my house and tell me or my brother he gonna come get us. We all be all packed and everything ready to go spend the night with him, and he don't even come and everything.
Damien's problems began when his mother and father separated. He was left back in 1st grade. His teachers said he cried easily and couldn't say what was bothering him. His middle school guidance counselor says he was a good student.
He was not a student that you would call difficult in any way. His mother was one of the most visible presence in terms of parents, of any parents we have.
Yet as a high school freshman, Damien was reading at a 4th grade level. His academic work sank, and he started getting in fights. Rhonda, his mother, felt Damien was old enough to take care of himself.
That kid had a lot of problems, and she never knew how to deal with them. And nobody took the time to show her, you know. And she was into the school, so I don't really know how. Maybe she just blocked that stuff out. She might have just blocked it out, and she didn't want to know that something was really wrong with her son. Yeah.
Me and Kevin could see it coming. Because every time we tried to talk to him, he used to tell me and Kevin, no, I'm not doing it. You know, the kids used to tell us, yeah, Damien's out there selling drugs, Jeff. Damien's doing that, Jeff. And me and Kevin would walk right by over there. We'd be like, Damien, what you doing? We going to the club, what you doing? Oh, I'll be up there.
By the time he was 14, Damien wanted independence. He found it on the streets. In the streets, the young teenager could pretend to be a man, earn enough to be independent of his mom. The shoes, the coats, the jewelry. They call it living large. This gang phenomenon's just been in Boston these last 5 years. Instead of Bloods and Crips like in LA, the kids here go for pro sports teams. The Raiders, the Blackhawks, the Trailblazers. The Trailblazers' turf is Orchard Park.
Like my man LMLJ said, straight out of Boston, but from OP, there's only one way, and that's to come out strong, nice and long like the boat clown, rolling through Dudley, making a pissed off blazer town. Get the stage, you know what I'm saying?
People talk a lot about peer pressure. Here it is in action.
Walking down Ziegler to the chill spot where we fuck around. Grabbing some brews, smoking some weed, bumping some sounds. Fuck the police as we smoke on.
These guys all grew up together. They've bought one another food when times were hard. They fought together when people laughed at them because they were from the projects. Their code is simple. They pull out a knife, you pull out a gun. They put one of your friends in the hospital, you put one of theirs in the morgue. It's as American American as Al Capone.
Hands on the gripper for some licking. You got beef as they look tongue stricken. Not a word that we heard. So
They just want that security that they don't get at home, I think. They get it from their friends. And they get that bond that somebody always watch their back. Because, you know, it's really tough out in these streets now with all these so-called gangs.
There's no one leader, but there are several top dogs. Guys who've earned respect by fighting hard and not getting caught.
Loose busting their cap in the air saying, yeah, we're out of here. You know what OP?
I don't know, be one of the top, one of the top, one of the big ones.
Mm-hmm. Wanted to be a top dog.
Yeah.
What was it about being a top dog that you thought would be cool?
Get a lot of respect.
Mm-hmm. Did you not get respect otherwise?
Yeah, but I mean, you get much respect, even from other gangs that you got beef with. You see them in a club, they be wanting to buy you club sodas. That's how bad they be scared of you, you know.
Damien, I tried. And he knows I tried. And he'll tell you in a minute. My mother told me.
Your mother told you what?
Thought the streets would get you first.
I need some money. I don't want to ask my mother all the time for some money, you know. So it was like one day I just had some money in my pocket, and then I went to go buy 8 balls and stuff like that, and then went to just start selling it.
Mm-hmm. So you wanted to go buy an 8-ball jacket?
No, 8-ball, drugs, 8-ball.
Damien was arrested for selling drugs outside his building 5 months before the shooting.
I give him everything they want. What the hell he need to sell drugs for? Oh, yeah, I tore him up. I beat him from the police station all the way home. The cops had to stop me. Come up under this job. Excuse me? That's what? That is mine. And I can do whatever I want to do to him. You mind your business.
And you wouldn't listen to your dad because he hadn't been there. You were tired of listening to your mom. You weren't listening to Jeff. So what were you? There must have been something telling you that this is the way to go.
I was making some money, and I was like, so I just stayed with this, you know.
Mm-hmm. Were there people there who you looked up to and admired? In Orchard Park? If you looked around at the older guys that you wanted to hang with, who were they?
I used to look up to mostly Dana. That's why I used to look up to him a lot.
Man, Dana. Look at Dana.
Dana, the guy Damien looked up to and admired, is 20 years old. He's smart enough to be in college, but he's never graduated high school. He's a role model all over Orchard Park. He coaches sports. He's even gotten rival gangs together in a football league.
You down with OP? You down with OP?
He didn't trust my camera crew, so this interview was taped on a camcorder in a hallway. Are you a member of the Blazers, Dana?
Nah.
Come on, Dana.
Come on, Dana, you gotta tell us the truth.
Dana, don't bullshit me.
I ain't.
Come on, Dana.
Everybody tells me leader of the Blazers. Yeah.
I ain't know whoever told you that is lying. I ain't no leader. I'm not qualified to be no leader.
You don't have any problem telling your boys what to do around here, right?
I never told them what to do.
Now, where did I get this impression from?
I don't know. I know some of them could beat me out there.
I'm sure they could, but they wouldn't dare.
Yeah, something like that.
Once we started talking, I discovered a man who wanted the fast money and got trapped by the fast life.
Whatever happens, happens. That's what I said. I don't want to die. I don't want to get shot at stat. I've never been. You know? But nothing's going to stop me from going where I got to go. Going to my destination. Wherever that may be. Mm-hmm. I'm scared, but I'm not scared.
Mm-hmm. Dana was out on bail when we met. Last week, he started serving a 2.5-year term for attempted murder. His story repeats itself every day on the streets. The local roller rink. The cheerleaders stay to one side, under a wall listing the names of children killed on the streets of Boston. Just minutes before the camera turned on, Gary Bino was accosted by a group of kids from outside Orchard Park. He says it happens a lot, so often that he's joined the junior trailblazers for protection. On this day, Gary, a fluid skater, will not venture onto the floor. The violence isn't just happening in black communities. The murder rate in white America is twice that of any other nation. Nearly 7 white teenagers are murdered each day. But young black men are being killed at the rate of 9 a day, and there's fewer of them in the population. The difference between white and non-white communities is the availability of illegal guns. On the streets, they're called straps. Where do the straps come from?
Buying from the store. There's like a guy that has a gun license that's know us, and he's like a base head and everything. And we used to give him crack and everything. Mm-hmm. And he used to go buy his guns from the store. People, we giving him money. We all used to pitch in and we all used to share the guns.
A kid can get a gun a lot easier than he can go to the store and buy a pencil. It's just that easy. It's just that easy. A pencil,
easier than getting a pencil?
A pencil, you hear me?
Yeah.
A pencil. It's just that easy.
I met a man who smuggles guns into Orchard Park. He showed me 3 duffel bags full of guns he'd just brought back from out of state on a Greyhound bus. There were more than you see in this shot. The man in charge of keeping those guns off the streets of Boston is Special Agent Terry McCardle of the Treasury Department.
It's not the firearm, it's the individual who possesses it. And it's not the firearm we want to get off the street. It's the person that uses it illegally that we want to get off the street.
Agent McCardle says Boston is the minor leagues compared to what goes on in New York or LA. Juvenile homicides account for only 10 or 12% of the total. But doctors here say violence among teenagers is rising so fast, it needs to be treated not just as a crime, but as a public health problem. Deborah Prothrow-Stith is an assistant dean at the Harvard School of Public Health.
Violence is not human nature. It's learned behavior. And somewhere, some people taught that child to use violence and didn't teach that child other options or alternatives to violence in terms of solving the problem.
Damian Bino became a killer because of the kind of argument that boys used to settle with a fistfight. It all started with a fight between the Orchard Park Trailblazers and the Highland Avenue Blackhawks. The Blackhawks are younger than the Blazers, still afraid their mothers will see their faces on TV.
This started of a little thing that every time you bump into them, it was problems to happen.
What kind of problems? Like when you would bump into them, what would happen?
Shooting at each other. See, we always be scrapped. Show them the strap. We always be scrapped. That right there.
Let's see. Let me see. Now you guys strap all the time?
Yeah, all the time. All the time.
On the streets, the rumor is that Damian had been jumped by boys from Highland Avenue and later beaten by Corey Grant. Corey stood 6 feet tall and weighed nearly 200 pounds. But you never had any problem with him?
No.
I never had any problem, and you didn't have any problem. You had no problem with the kids from Highland?
Oh, yeah, I did have problems with the kids from Highland, but not him.
Not him. Damian says he began carrying a gun, just in case. April 20th, 1991, was the Saturday after spring break. Damian was supposed to have gone to a wrestling match with the peer leaders. Instead, on the basketball court, he ran into his buddy, Willie Dunn.
You know, he just asked, then you want to go to Highland? Because he told me he had some problems with them. I was like, all right. And then I went to my house, and I went to go get the gun from my house. everything, and then
The gun was at your house?
yeah.
They ran into Teron Harris. The three boys left Orchard Park, walking a quarter-mile west towards Highland Avenue. As they passed the corner of Highland and Center Streets, a group of boys sitting on the brownstone steps spotted them. One of them was Corey Grant. Corey's father, James, heard the exchange.
It wasn't like no one said, excuse my language, I'm going to say something that, what the fuck are you doing up here? You know how the kids talk today, just like, you off my turf, or you know how they kids say.
They was yelling at us and they threw a bottle in. And I turned, Will turned, and then the other kid turned. Then they just two guys just jumped out the stairs and ran up the street. It was like, go get the guns or something. And I just was like, then I turned to look at Will. Will was like, nah. He was like, nah. And then I just, pulled out, just started shooting.
And I hear, pow, wow, wow, wow.
Pat Copeney's son, Charles, was crossing the street as the shots rang out.
Someone's upstairs ringing the doorbell saying, Pat, you better get out here in a hurry.
We didn't even know if we hit anybody, And then, next thing his sister told us that one was in critical condition and one was dead. And then me and Will was like, oh, man, you killed somebody and everything. And I was like, wow, scared and everything, and I was like, then I went to my house, then I was playing Nintendo. My brother was sleeping and my mother.
I was in the bed. So he said, Ma, you want to sleep? I said, yeah. I said, what's the matter with you? He said, nothing, I'm tired, so go on to bed. All the time he knew he had something to tell me, he didn't tell me. It was like, not you. Gary, maybe? Not you. But see, Gary is a stubborn one. That's the one I figure I have problems with, because he's a mean one.
Damien wasn't mean.
Damien was a sweetheart.
Charles Copeney was only 11 years old. His murder shocked the city in a way the murders of older boys hadn't. The case would become the apocryphal cold-blooded crime.
James Grant cannot forget that dreadful night last April when gang members shot and killed his 15-year-old son, Corey. James Grant held his dying son in his arms and watched his world slip away.
I was yelling to his ear, Corey, Corey, Corey. And I reached down for his left hand to try to see if there was a pulse. No pulse. His last wind, his breath came out.
It's really tough, A lot of people feel like, life goes on, It's easy to say it because people haven't really experienced or know what it's like to say, this is part of you. It's a tough thing for me to say, there's different types of death. It's not like saying your brother, your mother, your father. This is part of you.
They surround us, but the murderers walk free. Mine's walking free, yours is going without. I'm a nut. The whole fucking system's nuts.
Marilyn Abramovsky had a particular interest in this case. For 8 years, she and other mothers of murdered children had worked to pass a crime bill that would make juveniles convicted of murder serve time as adults.
At this state's expense.
It turned out Damien Bino would be the first tried under the new law. He'd go to adult court unless he could prove he was rehabilitatable. I happen to know the judge in this case. Paul McGill and I were in the same class at Harvard College. We graduated 2 days after Damien Bino was born.
The evidence before me was that, he was a mom and apple pie kid. The evidence that came before me basically was, prior to November, he had never been into any real serious trouble.
In his ruling, Judge McGill described Damien as the product of a single-parent home whose hunger for a father figure led him to kill in order to be accepted by the Trailblazers. He said Damien was rehabilitatable. The mothers of Charles and Corey felt he'd just kicked dirt on their sons' caskets.
They come up with the same shit all the time.
Single parent, poor, no father.
And you come up into my house on Highland Ave, or you go to Deborah Grant's house, or you go to Jane's house. Wow. You're a single parent, or you're not supposed to live in an apartment like this. You know, have a seat. Quite strange, huh?
There's no way that Damien Bino should have been not tried as an adult. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel.
Can you give them a reason why you shouldn't be in adult prison?
I think I can get help. I think I can get help, and I can be with the I don't know how to say that.
Rehabilitated.
Yeah, rehabilitated.
By the fall, Pat Copeney and Deborah Grant Hall had joined Mothers of Murdered Children. They wanted mandatory sentences for convicted juvenile killers.
During his campaign for governor, Weld promised to get tough on crime. Today, he announced a proposal to crack down specifically on juvenile offenders.
Our message here, I hope, is clear and unmistakable that juveniles who commit acts of violence will be treated with the same level of seriousness as adults who commit acts of violence.
The governor's timing put the spotlight on Judge McGill. 2 days after the new crime bill was introduced, Damien's co-defendants, Willie Dunn and Teron Harris, began hearings to see whether they'd be tried as adults. The outcome would be very different for Harris and for Willie Dunn.
They look at kids like you and they say, those kids are just criminals. You know, they have these guns illegally and they're just, using them all illegally. And why shouldn't we lock them all away? What do you say to people like that?
Put them in a project like we are, getting them the same amount of money our parents make and everything. See what they do.
Willie was repeating 9th grade when he got arrested, yet he tested at a 12th grade math level. He's the kind of kid who should be buying into the system. Instead, he'd already done the calculations and opted out.
If you don't make no money, your parents don't make no money, you don't look forward to nothing, then you can't go nowhere in life. You can't go to college. Your parents don't make enough money to go to college. So you figure, hey, you ain't going to be nothing when you grow up. You ain't got nothing going for yourself. So, hey, might as well go out and sell some drugs and everything.
Willie Dunn grew up in what could be called the wrong side of the tracks in Orchard Park, the Harrison Avenue side. There are more abandoned apartments here, more drug customers. Maintenance crews are scared to come in. In some apartments, stray bullets have left their mark. Willie was raised by his grandparents, but his grandmother died when he was 7. All that remains of her is an oil painting.
After my grandmother died, that's when I kept drifting and drifting and drifting and drifting.
What was it about her death that affected you?
I don't know, it just made me feel like, who cares? Forget that, forget this.
When he turned 13, Willie started hanging out with the older trailblazers. He started skipping school. His grandfather seemed unable to do anything about it. He was by this time dying from lung cancer, and Willie was uncertain where he'd end up living.
Who was taking care of you while you were in the hospital?
Nobody.
Nobody?
Just me and my sisters. My uncle would come down and check on us, make sure we all right with food and everything, but that's about it.
In the year prior to the murders, Willie had been getting in more and more trouble with the law, always with Damien Bino and Teron Harris.
Every time he had a problem, there it was, those two.
Trina Dunn is Willie's aunt.
Got into some trouble, and my father was getting sicker and sicker of the cancer, and then the last incident he got into trouble, my father had said, well, I'm not going to get him out. He needs some counseling.
Jerry Hines is Willie Dunn's attorney.
In December of 1990, there was a psychologist of the court who said quite clearly that here's a kid who is a risk of hurting himself or others unless somebody does something. But that recommendation was allowed to just sit there.
6 weeks before the shooting, Dunn had been charged with assault and larceny. He was already on probation for gun possession. He could have been held in the Department of Youth Services. Instead, the judge released Willie Dunn to the custody of his mother, a heroin addict who hadn't lived with her son since he was 5 months old.
How did this happen? So, this same judge, Mr. Paul McGill, he's the individual who, my sister had went to court, I guess trying to make up for the lost time. She went to court, and he released Willie in the care of my sister. He released, and we didn't even know. My father didn't even know.
Judge McGill says he has no recollection of releasing Willie Dunn. But 3 days later, Willie stood next to Damian Bino as he fired the gun that killed Corey Grant and Charles Copney. After the killings, Judge McGill ruled that Willie Dunn could not be rehabilitated. He would be tried as an adult.
Here is a kid who's really going to be sacrificed, who really has been sacrificed to the public hostility around a juvenile justice system that seems to be lenient with kids who kill kids.
Damian Bino killed 2 people. He'll be free in 5 years, maybe even sooner. If Willie Dunn is convicted of first-degree murder, he could get life in prison.
I mean, you have to admit to an outsider, not knowing the facts of the case, that it just sounds strange. That the trigger man gets to stay in the juvenile system and the 2 guys that went with him just kind of went along for the ride, end up looking at life in Walpole.
It may sound strange, but it's what the law dictated. I can only follow the law, and the legislature said the sole concern that I had in looking at these 3 individuals was, could any of them be amenable to treatment? If so, they stayed in the juvenile system.
In Judge McGill's opinion, Willie Dunn at 16 showed no signs of ever becoming a productive citizen. The judge heard only 2 witnesses testify in his behalf. 21 persons testified in support of Damian Bino. Judge McGill says it was the preponderance of evidence that led him to make his decision. Pat Copney's got another theory.
Evidently, a judge must have knew who he knew in Roxbury District Court. So what is that?
What do you mean?
Bino's very, very well known in Massachusetts. I'm a Bostonian myself, and I know that.
You think it was the Bino name that got Damian on?
Oh, you're absolutely right.
There are those that look at the kind of the Bino family connections.
They need to stop.
And say Damian got this deal and Willie and Tehran are going up because of the Bino name.
They had nothing to do with the Bino name, honey. Jamie had a very good lawyer. All right. And Tehran and Willie could have had the same thing if their lawyer was doing what they're supposed to be doing. They should have had their stuff together.
So the Bino family did not pay
not one dime for the defense of Damian Bino. Not one dime. They didn't even go to court. All right.
Since I got in trouble, my mother was telling me stuff like they don't even want to help us out or nothing like that. They don't want nothing to do with us. So before that, we used to all have family reunions and have fun together. Now when I got locked up, they don't even want that.
A dozen different Binos declined to be interviewed about Damian. John Bino III was an exception.
It's another kid.
Just another kid.
It's another kid that had a problem, and, it's another kid that's gotten into trouble. I think because of the name and the name recognition that's been around for the last several years, it might have been blown out of proportion. But let's look at the child, not the name. There's a child that needs help, okay, to put his life back together. No, forget his name. Okay, forget my name. We're individuals.
You had told me something about they wanted you to change his name?
Yeah, change name and his last name.
That must be you must feel like it's a slap in the face to you.
It was when they first said it. Still is, but I don't let them bother me. I told Damien, I wasn't supposed to tell him, but I told him anywhere. Because I don't keep nothing from my kids. I let them know everything that's going down. And Damien was like, kind of hurt. And he wants to write his grandfather. And ask him why he felt like that. Told him it's up to him.
A family falling apart. A community of strangers coming together. A younger generation of kids split by rivalry and feelings of vengeance. I've come to understand that the word victim in this case includes all those whose lives have been touched by the shooting.
This is the ceremonial signing of the bill, which is now known as, and forever forward from this point on, known as the KID Grant Act of 1991. So I'm happy to sign the bill.
In January, Governor Weld signed a revised juvenile crime bill, one intended to send a message to kids who use guns.
Chapter 488 of the Acts of 1991.
It establishes mandatory sentences from 10 to 20 years for juveniles convicted of violent crimes.
Sentence for juveniles convicted of first-degree murder.
The mothers say they want equal justice. They know it won't work out that way. Pat Copney told me that between the laws and the guns, half of the black males in this generation are going to be locked up. The other half will be lying 6 feet under. There's widespread suspicion among blacks that those who run the system don't care if it does work out that way.
Something's wrong out there. And I can't change the world. And we could change the laws. But the laws are for the black kids because the white kids are getting away with it. Our black kids are the ones that's going to serve time. And somebody's giving them the guns. Somebody's giving them the stuff to tell them, the drugs, to do what they're doing. They don't have the money to buy the drugs. Somebody's bringing the drugs into them. All right.
But to point the finger of blame at the white man ignores the seeds of the solution.
Play tough, man. Play hard, all right? Don't give up on them. Don't give up. Play defense tough, man, all right? On three. Hard work. 1, 2, 3. Hard work. All right, let's go, man.
Jeff Bino coaches players who dream of being basketball stars. There's no one here who dreams of owning a team. Peter Bino supports charities in Chicago, but he hasn't set foot in Orchard Park in years. Judge McGill works 3 blocks from Orchard Park. Some of these youngsters have even been in his court, but they don't know how to grow up to become judges. Tougher laws, more jobs, more programs. All of these are partial answers. The real problem is that too few professional adults, black or white, people like me, find time in their day to support teenagers growing up in places like Orchard Park.
What would have to change all of this?
The world.
The world.
Yeah, the world.
I don't think once it starts, you'll never be able to stop it. You just got to get more positive people. And one person can't change everything, so it's like everybody got to Chip in. Yeah. Come on.
On today's forum, we're going to discuss the topic of Nintendo.
There are teenagers like these all over the country, living with one foot in their dreams and the other in the reality of the streets.
That's very right?
I came to Orchard Park to report a story. I found a group of kids who broke through my journalistic veneer. I look at them and I wonder, if put in their shoes, I would choose to do the right thing or take the easy way out.
They just gonna rebuild stuff?
I've come to think of them as my kids, so I'll be coming back to Orchard Park. That's my way of chipping in.
Funding for Frontline is provided by the financial support of viewers like you and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Frontline is produced for the Documentary Consortium by WGBH Boston, which is solely responsible for its content. For videocassette information about this program, please call this toll-free number, 1-800-328-PBS-1.
This is PBS.
Next time on Frontline, is there racial discrimination in mortgage lending?
I would categorically say no.
I was advised the committee turn your application down.
Why was Green turned down?
Because of the location of the area.
Your loan is denied on Frontline.
For a printed transcript of this or any Frontline program, please write to this address.